So it's been like 4 months since I uploaded a video, and I've been asked if I actually plan on finishing anything that I started. And the truth is that I do plan on finishing them at some time. They're just taking a lot longer than I thought they would. That and I'm splitting time between the three of them, and I keep getting confused. So I figured I'd just give a 2023 update, my plans for that. So the 84 VF500F, the 2001 SV650S, and the 1986 Honda VFR700F. So I just got, yeah, we'll go with this one first. So I just got a new chain installed, new 530 chain, arcade chain, X-ring. I have new bearings in the wheels. Since I was already taking the bearings out and everything, I was like, well, let's just get them powder coated. So those are powder coated now with new bearings, with the chain on it. The fork seals were about the only thing I had a maintenance record on, and those were replaced in 2014. I dumped the old fluid. I put 10 and 15, so I made 12.5 weight Maxima in there. I plan on, if I actually like this bike, I don't know if I'm going to like it yet, I'll eventually probably put emulators inside of that thing. I was just running this thing a whole bunch today because I ended up rebuilding the entire carburetor. I got a whole set of 4 new bodies. It's a California model because the other ones that I had were just so trashed. I had to pull the whole thing out because I cut the fuel lines the wrong way. I was sending it off that way. I need to be sending it this way. So I've rebuilt these carburetors like 3 times now. They're working pretty good right now. So I'm happy about that. This is probably as far as I'm going to get with this thing for a little while, because a lot of the next stuff is going to be trying to repair all of this absolutely destroyed bodywork, and there's a lot of it. Outside of that, I'll show you at the end of this video. This thing is running pretty well, all things considered. It sounds awesome. So did I do anything else to this thing? Not really. I mean, little odds and ends. There's a lot of rust on it. I'm slowly taking it off. If I ever really do end up liking it, I will take the entire thing out, motor out, blast the subframe, get that powder coated, all that type of stuff. So now the SV650. Try not to look at this horrible number plate because I didn't know what I was doing when I put the decal on, and I've already ordered a new one, and I'm really embarrassed about how it looks. I am not embarrassed about my new drippin' wet logo. I love Canadian geese. Canadian geese are about my favorite thing in the world. Much of my week is spent watching videos of Canadian geese, and even more of it on the weekends is spent watching Canadian geese attacking children. It's just my favorite thing. I love Canadian geese because they do not care. In my business park at work, there's a whole flock of Canadian geese. They just keep walking across the road, blocking traffic. People lose their fucking minds, and I get to watch this out of the window like all day, and it is my absolute favorite thing. So I'm very excited about the Canadian Goose logo. So last weekend I drove out to Pittsburgh to race at Pitt Race. That may be the coolest motorcycle track in the country. I think I'm going to be hard pressed to find a cooler, more awesome motorcycle track to run in the entire country. I really do. There's tons of awesome ones. That might have been the coolest one I've ever seen. It took me an entire day to figure out where I was going, though. There's like 3 completely blind corners on the thing, and I never quite figured it out. And my first ever race there was in a downpour. I rolled up to the line. I was actually going to sit it out and then decided against it 2 races before. Switched to my old Bridgestone S22s, got up to the line, and I see every other person that had entered was on wets, and I'm like, all right, well, if after 1 lap I don't see anybody, I'm going to pull in because I know I'll be too slow. Turned out there was 1 other person that was about my pace in the wet, which was very slow. Not completely embarrassingly slow, but it was very slow. But I figured I was with him the whole time, so let's just do it. It's a character building exercise. I've run so many track laps in the wet, I might as well get used to it. The pavement at Pittsburgh had a ton of grip. In the wet, That's sort of like Road America, at least, well, I haven't done it since they've repaved it. But Road America surprised me with how much grip that it had in the wet. Pittsburgh had that same amount of grip, whereas Blackhawk, there's parts of it that just turned to ice. So I made a whole bunch of changes to the front end of this. This bike feels very different than what I was used to. I was really glad to have the steering stabilizer because there's that wheelie hill or whatever coming out of 2 and then up towards 3. And I wasn't like lifting my front wheel, but the front would go completely soft. It was weird because, well, it must have completely unloaded the suspension, and I just never experienced that before. The Woodcraft keyless ignition that I ended up making a whole big long extension for, that worked perfect. I mean, it made it through quite a few wet laps through the whole thing. Bodywork there, only a little bit is scraping on it. I knew it would scrape on the right. I know it'll scrape more once I get to a track that I'm familiar with. Those S22s got to come off. I'm going to put the SCS or SC3 track days back on. And then my first ever time there was on slicks. And, well, I've got a lot of work to do because I wasn't using, you know, 1/5, no, I wasn't using 5% of the ability of those things. So that's where I'm at with the SV650. The bike is awesome, ran flawlessly. Again, I'm just slow. I want to go back to Pittsburgh and not be slow. I plan on going back there. Then the VF500F. This thing, I'm trying to do something pretty unique and cool with it, but it's turning out to be more difficult than I expected. And I just got the tank back from chem stripping it, so this whole bike was basically spray bombed with that horrible yellow in it. I have gotten the wheels powder coated, this RAL 1023, it's like a safety yellow. I've got most of the pieces primed. I ended up buying a chin fairing or belly pan, or no, it's not really a pan because it doesn't hold anything, but the bikini fairing or whatever it is. This yellow here, it may look better on camera. It's not even close. It's not even close. I ended up wasting like $140 from this LVP because these things spray like absolute trash. Priming is working out fine, so my plan for the rest of the evening is to do a little bit of Bondo work and get this thing all ready so that I can first use the self-etching primer on it. Then I'm going to have a 2K primer that's coming in a little bit later. And then what I'm hoping is going to be very, very cool is if I can get this thing sprayed correctly. I worked with a company, AFE Graphics, to come up with a custom set of decals for the Honda VF500F. So looking through their website, what they do is make stock reproductions to help people, you know, bring bikes back to how they looked on the showroom floor. And like their mission is very specific about bringing things back to stock. So that's not what I'm trying to do. So I sent them an email. I'm like, I know this goes against everything you guys stand for, but would it be possible to look into doing a color swap on the OEM graphics for a 1984 Honda VF500F? Then I photoshopped a image about how I wanted it to look. So all of the stickers, all the labels are going to be the same, but they're going to be color swapped to black, yellow, and white. So it'll be the exact same 1984 graphics, but sort of in like those, I guess it's kind of Yamaha's color for the special colors. So if I can pull that off, this will be an extremely unique bike. This is a really scary bag of stuff to me because this is really easy to screw up and it wasn't cheap. So that's what my 2023 looks like. Doesn't even sound like I'm trying to accomplish that much. If I can accomplish it, get that thing riding, learn how to ride that, turn that thing into pretty, that would be a successful 2023 for me. Oh yeah, with the slicks, I just got that from somebody on Craigslist. It's really nice to have power at the track. I've never had that before. Me and my tent and a generator. So, all right, I'll show you what this thing sounds like. So now that I got the carburetors rebuilt, I put the airbox back on and new air filter, everything like that, and it sounds a whole lot better. I just wasn't gonna get this thing working with these all the damage that was on these carburetors. There's so much damage on these things, and maybe I could, I mean, I had it running, but it was never going to run right. Like, this throttle plate is just totally screwed. New regulator has it charging correctly, which is great. So before I was charging at like 17 volts, and now it's at like a pretty consistent all the way through the rev range, like 14.5, 14.6. Little bit of afterfire every once in a while, but we could work that out. So should be, it's warm now. Probably got the idle up a little high. It's so loud. It is so very loud. And that noise is awesome. I'll work the afterfire out. You watch this far. Thanks for watching.